What's up? This is The Vinyl Casket, home to The Lamest Taste. You can check me out on Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube, all at The Vinyl Casket, all one word, The Vinyl Casket, obviously. I said that multiple times. I said Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, all one word. Subscribe, like, and comment, hit the bell for much, much more. It really helps. I really appreciate it. I've been pretty much on a roll with subscribers lately, the last month or so. I'm really starting to build the channel back up. I know I haven't been doing as much as I wanted this week. But with that being said, this is another book review. And I'm hoping to do more of these more often because I've really been pushing myself to be on top of reading novels. I'm cutting back on the weekly comics and monthly comic reviews, switching to like reading on apps. So there will be a lot of recaps and overviews of series and arcs and old stuff. But I wanted to do another book review because I just finished a book. This is the Casket book reviews. There will be a playlist eventually. I got to get around to that. So if you haven't been following the channel, you should. I've been really obsessed with Leigh. I think her name is Leigh Bardugo. I read and did a review earlier last year, end of last year, on Ninth House, and like a month ago I did a review on finishing Hellbent. If you don't know, she also writes and did the show for Shadow and Bone. And Shadow and Bone's a trilogy. Then you have there's a duology that follows Six of Crows, and then there's a second duology. So on my obsession with Leigh Bardugo, I was so hyped on how much I was loving Hellbent that I saw this book, King of Scars, the second duology in the Grishaverse, in the store. I didn't know anything about it. I saw that it wasn't directly connected to the trilogy, so I thought like, oh, maybe it just kind of set like that. Those new books in Maze Runner, they're like set way in the future. They're not directly connected, but they're in the shared world. Like, I'm like, this cover looks awesome. I don't think this is the original cover. I believe the hardcover came all gold, and now the soft cover has the green. I really like the green. It really caught my eye, and it already has its sequel out. This book was released in 2019, and it's followed in a duology by Rule of Wolves. So I picked this book up. I skimmed the thing. My wife already owned the first book, Shadow Bones, and I'm going to get around to it. I watched a little bit of the first season. I was like, this is really good, but I want to read the books, whatever. And I was like, okay, I read the description. You know, the description sounds awesome. I don't do any research. I don't realize that this is directly connected to these books. I did not realize that this trilogy, the other duology, directly lead into this duology. I just thought they were in the same universe and they were spread out and maybe a couple characters appeared. Really was under that interpretation. Finished Ninth House, finished Hellbent. So excited. Also been obsessed with Holly Black. I have a couple books of hers I still have to read. But after Hellbent, I was on such the back end of Hellbent, I was cooking. I was so good. I was reading so much. It's a hardcover. I take the train. It's hard to carry that in my lunchbox if I don't have my backpack and I have my tool bag instead. But I bought this, put it on the shelf, and then I was so into her writing that I grabbed this immediately, started reading it, and then like 5 chapters in, I was like, oh, I screwed up. Like, I should have read these books first. I really should have read these books first. So I had already been too far because I was so interested. First chapter, you had no idea. First chapter, you have no idea because it's about so every chapter in this series, in this book, and I'm assuming Rule of Wolves, follows a third person point of view of a different character. Every chapter rotates characters. Sometimes they're characters that stories are intertwined, so you'll read the king Nikolai, and then you'll read Zoya, and they're together. They're like in the same. They're going through. Their storylines are interconnected. They're in the same location, and you'll read their chapters back to back. So it feels like you spent 40, 50 pages in one location on one story, but it's from two different people's perspectives. Like the perspectives are changed, and the writing changes just slightly based on who you're following, enough to be really interested and zone you in. So first chapter, character, a kid that never really appears, as far as I know. And you're like, this is so good. And then you start reading the next couple of chapters and you realize, but I'm already have committed to this. Like, I'm not going to put this down to start this. So I messed up, but I really enjoyed this. And I feel like it did a really good job. At least the first like 10, I think it's 39 chapters. It's like a 511 pages. The first like 10 chapters, a little lost. I did watch most of the first season, so like I knew some names and I could now connect faces like and picture what they might look like based off their descriptions and then what they kind of were portrayed as. So like, okay, but then the back half, like after 10 chapters, there was so much explanation that's like layered into this book that like it like quickly explains the things that happen in the other two series enough to understand, and it develops the characters way deeper than I think these characters in this book previously were, because I think a couple, like one or two of them were main characters in Six of Crows, and then a couple of them were like reoccurring important characters throughout the later half of the trilogy. So obviously they exist and they have stories and they interacted with the main character of this book, obviously Alina. But this book takes all that information, loosely connects and makes references, and really develops on top of that while explaining to you the key things that already happened. This book was dark. This book was fast-paced. This book was really well structured. And the way the multiple storyline angles, the different perspectives, like 8 different, it was Nina, Zoa, whatever, how you were saying, Nina, Zoa, Isaac later on, like at the back half of this book, you get to meet Isaac, who quickly became one of my favorite characters. And he's not really ever mentioned in any of the other series. So he's like unless he might be, but he's pretty much, I feel like, a unique character in this duology that I really enjoyed. And I'm not going to super spoil it. So I'm not going to say what happens to him or where he goes, but I really enjoyed his storyline, and I was very upset towards the end of it when everything started to interconnect. And I loved how they interconnected everything except Nina. So you get the King Nikolai, you get Zoya. The storylines are basically tandem. Isaac, who basically overlaps at the end with those two. So their 3 storylines kind of interact, and then there's like 3 or 4. There's 4 other characters that interact, like their development and character stories we don't really get the perspective of them, but they are intertwined through those 3 storylines. And then Nina is a whole other storyline happening on a whole other country that's so like, it's so interesting on its own, but has nothing to do with the main story. Like at the end, it's like, oh, we found this out, we gotta tell, and then it already happened. This came out in 2019. I really enjoyed it. Out of 5, I'm gonna give this a 4.8. I think this is awesome. I really love this book. I'm currently now gonna catch up. Before I read Rule of Wolves, I'm gonna catch up and I'm gonna read all Shadowbone, the trilogy, Six of Crows, that whole thing. Then watch the 2 seasons of the show, and then finish this. So that's really my plan right now. I'm gonna buy the box set because we already own this, but obviously if you buy the box set, it's pretty cheap on Amazon if you guys want. I'm probably gonna put this in like a tiny library. There's like 8 of them around my apartment, so I might get rid of this, swap it out with something, or just put it in there and then get the box set. But right now I'm reading it. I'm really enjoying it, and I really love this. I highly recommend. I think she's an amazing. Lee Bardugo is an amazing writer. I bought The Familiar, which is her. I'll be right back. This is her latest book that just came out in 2024, beginning of this year, like literally 2 months ago. Awesome. I'm super excited. I read like the first couple pages just to see if I was going to really enjoy it, and I do. It's supposed to be geared kind of like an adult novel, kind of like Hellbent and Ninth House, and not fantasy like Shadow and Bone. But it's like a romance, like a dark, mystical, weird romance. I'm really excited. It seems like it's a period piece. Super excited. It's got sprayed edges. Like this is like the regular version. Like you can just get this at any store and it has sprayed edges. I believe I got this at Target. It was on sale. There was like they were running a special. If you bought two, you get one free or something. Really enjoyed this. I didn't read this yet. Really excited about this. But obviously I'm grabbing the wrong book. Whole reviews about King of Scars. Came out in 2019. Lee Bardugo. Huge fan. Ninth House and Hellbent also are over there. But highly suggest you read this whole series and check this out. This is one of my favorite books I've read in a long time of fantasy. And I read all Holly Black's books, so that's saying something. I'm a big fairy book fan, but that was like action-packed, dark, and really cool. So King of Scars, check it out. 4.8 out of 5. This is the Vinyl Casket. Thank you guys for tuning in for an 11-minute video. Unreal. Check it out. Get in the comments. Let's talk about it. I don't do book reviews often, but they will be more frequent this year. Home of the Lamest Taste, The Vinyl Casket, all one word. You should be on Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. Subscribe, like, and comment. Hit the bell for much more. Do me a massive favor and stay lame.